Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. This is episode 77. I love the numbers. I love it when we get messages from the universe with the numbers. So I'm excited about 77. And actually, just as a side note, seven for me means harmony. So I'm excited for this episode. But before we get into the details of what this episode's about, I'd love my co-host, the beautiful, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, and published author Stacey Brown to introduce us. Stacey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, friends. I am really looking forward to another episode. It blows my mind that we have recorded 77 episodes. It's unbelievable. And your support means the world to us. I'm Stacey. I'm an intuitive healer. I am a certified Reiki practitioner. I'm a spiritual mentor and coach. I'm also an Akashic record reader, podcast host and creator, and a recently published author. My book, Journey to Soul Center Discovering the Gift of Surrender, is out on Amazon now and Audible. So check it out.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I always ask you to go first, and I'm always going to do ladies first, but it's always hard to follow these days. But hi, everybody. I'm Nims. I'm an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, spiritual coach and mentor, and a podcast host and a podcast creator. And I love the work that we do. I talked about my story last week, but in terms of the Akashic records and kind of the journey that we've been on, I feel so blessed. So, Stacey, I always love to start the episode by talking about how you shining your light today on you, because I really believe it's important that we shine a light on ourselves first. So, let me ask you, what have you done today to shine a light on you?
So I love this question because it does make me stop and think, am I showing up for myself and how am I caring for myself? And one of the things that I feel really committed to is if I'm going to mentor people and help them align in all four bodies, I have to be taking care of mine. And so I knew that I had a small window of time and I got on my treadmill and did a workout. And let me just tell you, friends, some days it is so hard to be motivated. And I just found a way, like I had a goal in my mind of how long I needed to commit to myself. And I followed through with it. And it just felt really good to take that time away from, other people and other things that can distract me and just focus on my physical body. And so that to me today was a huge accomplishment and absolutely feels like I'm shining a light on myself. What about you?
Beautiful, proud of you, Stace. Love the way you always show up, and like I always say to you, I can tell the difference when you done your workout and when you don't get the time. So I could definitely contest that it makes a difference because it's sometimes so much easier to see in somebody else. For me, I've had a really weird day. I My passport's expired, kind of human stuff, but so I had a long drive to go and get it renewed and queue up and whatever. I need it kind of. I'm planning a trip soon, so which I'm excited about. But yeah, so that took up most of my day. But on the way back, you know what? I had to take a little break and stop for a Starbucks. So I just treated myself a little bit and just had a nice chai tea latte and just haven't had much time to even step in the garden today. So after we finish recording this podcast, I'm sure I'll step in the garden and just reset a little bit. I feel it's been a busy week, and we recording this on a Friday. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to that little bit of reset where I get to wind down on a Friday and just kind of do some journaling and reflect on, yeah, a great week. So, Stace, this week's topic. Um, I really feel like we've been on a journey with this podcast, and I feel so blessed with kind of just picking the topics. And I know we pick the topics 3 months in advance, but this week's topics is: do you believe in miracles? And it's a really interesting topic because when you say do you believe in miracles, I guess a lot of people would think of those big epiphanies, those big things that happen in our lives, kind of that really shift us and really kind of, there's such a big wow factor. And, we'll go into it in terms of, maybe some of the miracles that we've faced and, kind of what it's meant for us. And, I talked about some of them in my awakening story that I shared last week. But I guess also I want to mention, and as we start this episode, that sometimes a lot of small, amazing things turn into a big miracle. And sometimes when it's our expectations of what a miracle looks like, that we miss the smaller victories, the smaller things that happen to us that are also miraculous. I love how the universe shows up in different ways, and just those little magical nudges when we're watching and when we're listening. And yeah, just like this podcast and the messages we get every week, of how it's just touching somebody's soul and guiding some, people on their spiritual awakening. And, for me, in some ways, that's a miracle. That's just, I started this podcast a few years ago, and it was a message through the Akasha Records. And really, my objective was just to share whatever knowledge is coming through, and just, but even starting this podcast, if you told me a few months before I started the podcast, I was going to start a podcast, and, we've kind of been on this journey and the success we've had with it, I'm sure I would have believed them. So it's that, sometimes miracles are not something that happens really quickly and, oh my God, that was a miracle. Sometimes they also happen over time. And it's just, it's really appreciating the magic around you and taking yourself on a journey to really think about what is the magic in your life. And the more that you realize the magic in your life and you realize the miracles in your life that look like magic, the more that you appreciate them, but also the more that you ask in the universe for more of those experiences. So, Stacey, let me ask you, do you believe in miracles? There's a song there somewhere, but anyway.
Um, so yes, I absolutely believe in miracles. Um, I've talked a lot about the journey with my son on this podcast, and there were so many miracles in that unfolding of that process. And just briefly, for those who don't know, uh, 4 years ago, my 17-year-old son attempted to take his own life, and he was in grave danger. And through some amazing, miraculous, divine moments, his life was spared. And I would say that before everything happened with my son, I believed in miracles because I'm a mom, and even just the process of having a child is so miraculous. But I would say since everything happened with my son, I have an even deeper, more expansive belief in miracles because I've seen such significant things happen. And I agree with you. I think that oftentimes we dismiss the everyday miracles, like we take for granted that we wake up every morning and that we're breathing. That is a miracle, right? We go
Yes,
outside,
so
we go
true.
out, we go outside and we see a beautiful sunrise, or we see the moon and stars at night. That's a miracle. And it's almost like I wonder sometimes if because miracle seems like such a big word, like a big, like massive, implosive thing. Like, I think we just like kind of sometimes miss the day to day things. And I I think of miracles as divine moments, like something beyond me brought me into this space. Like I think about, we did a clubhouse room last night, like we do every week. And um, I was thinking about how my life has totally changed because of a social media app and like the miracle of us connecting and the miracle of transitioning from one way of my life being to a completely different image than I would have ever expected. So it's like I feel like miracles are happening every day, but I also feel these massive miracle moments. And I am in awe that I could be in a space where I was in so much pain and could experience miracles after that pain, if that makes sense. Like I just went through such a dark time, and yet I can see those divine moments, those miracles that have happened.
And the domino effect of one thing happening, and it's like meeting people on Clubhouse and kind of what that's created, and then if you kind of start to connect the dots. I mean, even me and you meeting, there's no way, can't say there's no way, but in a normal way, our paths wouldn't have really crossed. Sure, I remember at the time, a couple of years ago, I was traveling every month to the US for work, but nowhere near where you lived. So there wasn't, without something like Clubhouse and the kind of universe having their own plans for us to connect, that would have happened, right? So it's that, well, once you start to really look at the universe and the magic of how connections are made, what those soul contracts look like, does make you appreciate the universe around you more. And as you said, maybe it's a good thing for our listeners to consider today. What around you that's happened to you today, or that if you can take a step outside into nature or whatever works for you, could you really look at in detail and just see the miracle that's happening around you? Could you take a moment and truly, truly appreciate the magic of whatever the universe? Because I love to call it magic moments. It's that, and actually, you know what? One of the things that lifts my soul is creating magic moments for other people, and I love doing it because actually, and I'm very aware that I do it because of how it makes me feel. It makes me feel great, and I love the quote. And I know it's quoting quote from a movie, but I'm sure it originated elsewhere. But life's not about the breath that you take, but life's about the moments that take your breath away. And just being in the garden at times, and just especially at night, I have a connection to nighttime for some reason. And when it's full moon, it's just beautiful to feel Mother Nature, the energy of the full moon, which actually by the time this episode is released, we would have just had a full moon, but just taking that full moon in, or just as you say, seeing a sunset, seeing a sunrise, there's so much around us that is a miracle. Hey, say waking up every morning is a miracle. If you've got kids looking into their eyes and just seeing the beauty and the magic, is a miracle. It's that, but it's like it's our expectations of what a miracle looks like that maybe stops us from seeing the true magic that's happening around us.
Yeah, if you had asked me if I believed in miracles last year at this time, I probably would have said yes, but I would have been wondering, like, why am I not experiencing miracles? Like, I was just in such a dark space, and I just had this like flash before me just now of like one of our listeners um, going through a challenging season and having a hard time finding the miracles. And I just want to encourage you, my dear friend who's watching this or listening to this, look back on your life collectively and think about the experiences that you've been through and some of the things that you've overcome. That's a miracle. You know, I'm in a really beautiful season right now after a season of darkness. And when it was dark, it was really hard to see the miracles. It was really hard. Were they still there? Yes, they were. Just like we're saying, waking up is a miracle, right? Just because you don't acknowledge it doesn't mean it's not a miracle. But I'm in this new season now and I'm in awe. I have 4 kids and my oldest is 26 and she's married and she is expecting a baby girl in December. I'm going to be a grandmother and that's a miracle, right? It's a beautiful thing to think about a new life coming into the world and I've never experienced being a grandparent before. Um, you know, last year at this time when my husband and I split, I I made a decision that I wasn't going to let anyone have access to me in that way. And that it was safer to be on my own. And through a series of divine moments, I have met someone that I've been able to open my heart to in a way that I didn't expect. And that's a miracle, especially considering how closed off I was. Um, I believe that when we acknowledge the miracles in our lives, we make room for more of that energy, that vibration to be in our space. What do you think about that?
No, I 100% agree. So when we talk about being grateful, we also talk about being specific about the moments that you're grateful for. And when you're specific, I'm grateful for, you know, the podcast I recorded with Stacey today, where we talked about miracles and we had a conscious conversation around miracles. And I really appreciated that conversation and I really felt the energy and the vibration of it. When you're that specific, one, you're kind of embedding that memory into your psyche. You're really kind of feeling at a deep level. The second thing you're doing is you're also asking and you're manifesting more of those miracles. So, I really feel it is important just to take maybe a moment as often as you can and just truly look around and say to yourself, okay, what miracles are happening around me right now? Just if I just look at the journey of the last few years, there's so many things that you know I think we have the illusion of control because I don't really think we're in control of anything. I think the universe. Sorry, I'll take that back. We are in control. We do have free will. We can choose what we're going to focus this moment on. But when we decide to focus on in this moment in joy, then I think we give the universe a real opportunity to show off and to allow us to experience as many miracles as we can. And it's really interesting that it's when we were talking about we don't plan the episode, whatever comes through comes through, but we do have a little quick chat about it beforehand. And we were talking about this topic, and Stacey, I was kind of saying to you, well, I don't know, right now I feel in a space where I'm not experiencing many, many miracles. Maybe I'm too used to it. Feel like I've led a blessed life with so much love around me, but it's like there's a part of me that feels like I'm standing still. And it's interesting, in yesterday's room, that's the card that you picked, right? Standing still. And I wonder how many people that are listening can relate to that feeling right now. of standing still. I.e., we feel like we're working on so many things and doing the right things and showing up in whatever way that looks like. But in some way, we feel like we're in a holding pattern. So, and I remember having the conversation with you before the episode, and I remember us saying, well, actually, you know what? Even when we're feeling like we're standing still, there's still miracles happening around us. Even in your, you talked about the deep, dark space you were in a year ago. I've still, kind of experienced God showing off for you so many times in that past year. Just no one person could go through that amount of change, moving multiple times, changing careers, kind of being in that space without there having to be multiple major shifts, which you could call miracles, right? And it's just, it's really interesting when you shift your perspective. Maybe you can shift your view and start to appreciate some things around you. Of course, there's going to be dark times in our lives, right? There's going to be times where we feel like the universe is against us and we feel like nothing is there for us and everything is kind of working against us. And, we're a soul having human experience. So it does mean that we have ups and downs. And it does mean that, sometimes we need to experience some darkness to truly see the light. But I believe if we can focus on what the things are that are working for us, the miracles that are happening around us, then we get to choose how long we stay in that darkness. And maybe, just taking time out on a day-to-day basis and just appreciating the miracles around. Just as you say, seeing a sunset, seeing a sunrise, waking up in the morning and just opening your eyes, having a smile on your face, having a conversation with a friend, going for a walk, in depending where you are in the world right now, it is coming to the summer season for a lot of us. So maybe that is a great opportunity to get outside and just go and look at a flower, just feel the breeze, just look at the sun, whatever's out there, just and truly feel the miracles around. Because, or maybe even just close your eyes and just take a moment to feel your guides around you. And maybe at times it's hard to feel that. But if you truly breathe and just feel that magic around you, maybe just for a moment you can feel how supported you are. And maybe that's all the miracle that you need today. And that doesn't mean that you don't, focus on what are you trying to manifest and, focus on manifesting amazing miracles, because there's been so many times in my life where there had to be, something happening around me for me to get through whatever I was going through. I remember in a previous episode talking about a car accident, and kind of I was very young at the time, and you know, getting out of the car and not really thinking much about it, thinking more I need to contact my family. And where a police officer at the time looked at the car, looked at me, looked at the car, looked at me, just said, "How did you get out that?" And I looked at the car, and the car was on its roof, and the roof was caved in, and I was like, I honestly don't know. And yeah, perceptively, that was a, you know, not necessarily a moment I look on fondly, because it was my brother's car, and he'd done it up, and kind of it was his pride and joy. But it was a miracle that I got out of that car. I didn't even think of it as a miracle at the time. So maybe a question for our listeners is, if you go back to the pivotal, I'm not saying bad moments, the pivotal moments in your life, what were the miracles that happened at the time to get you through it, to truly make you the person you are today? Stace, when I met you on Clubhouse, right? That fateful day when I wasn't planning to talk. I was driving in listen mode, but when you shared so vulnerably, and whatever you shared touched my soul. And there was something in me that said, I need to just go and say congratulations. I wasn't planning to have a long conversation with you, but I'm like, you know what? I'm proud of you, even though I didn't know you at the time. Again, that was, for me, that's a miracle. It took a series of events, unplanned, for that whole exercise to happen. If I remember my spiritual awakening story that I shared a couple of weeks ago, there's so many things that have happened in my life that have helped me to understand the healer I am today, to be having this conversation with you. None of it could have, so much of it I didn't really plan for, because the universe had different plans for me than I did. But how often do we get frustrated when we have certain expectations, when we have certain plans of how things are going to go? How often do we get frustrated when they don't go our way? But what if accepting that they went in a better way allows us to experience true miracles?
Yeah, it's interesting because um I would not have said, a year ago that my divorce was a miracle. Okay? Like I was in pain, I was sad. I knew it was the right thing. Um but I really felt very sad, and I felt like a failure. Um and I look at my life today and I feel like I was saved. Like I was miraculously saved from an empty relationship where I felt so unfulfilled. And I look at even the horrific things that have happened, and I know that I wouldn't be who I am today or doing what I'm doing today had all the steps not happened. You know, it's just really significant to think about how much my life has changed since I surrendered. And I've talked about this moment before, but I had a moment where I surrendered in a grocery store parking lot. And since that day, uh, my life has just been a series of miraculous moments, divine moments, um, that have been, and each one of them has been pivotal, right? Because each one was a stepping stone to getting me to where I am right now. And I would never have anticipated that all of this would be possible, especially when I was in the pain. So, my friend, if you're in the pain and you're having a hard time seeing the miracles, I just want you to know I get it. I get it, because through the beginning stages of this process, like this season of my journey and the heartbreak and the pain, I don't think I could see the miracles. I look back now with a lot more insight and clarity, but I think it's because I was surviving. And so I would encourage you to be introspective, to grab your journal and write about some of the moments that have happened, and maybe try finding the miracles, right? Like, were you in a miserable relationship and you're going through a horrible divorce and you're so challenged by that season, but you are now out of that toxic situation or on your way out of that toxic situation and things are shifting for you? Is the miracle that you're not going to be stuck in a loveless marriage the rest of your life? That's just an example, but I guess I'm encouraging our listeners to take some time to really dig into the things that have happened to you, whether it be the last 6 months or the last year, and try to see from a different lens those miraculous moments that shifted things for you.
Stacey, it's really interesting. It's so much easier sometimes to see things when you're seeing what somebody else is going through. And kind of seeing your journey in the past year, the darkness that you were in at times could have consumed you. And I saw you many times, trying to make sure that it didn't consume you, right? But again, if I look at a lot of the things that have happened, like everything that needed to happen to get your book out, kind of just some of the magical experiences that we've had and the things that we've got to see in the past year, all of that happened because even through the darkness, you were open to change coming. And it's almost like there are times when you had to take that leap of faith. It's almost like you had no other choice.
Mhm.
And I guess the reason I'm saying that is I can imagine, some of the listeners, when you're going through that dark times, the first thing you think of is, yeah, their story is different to mine. They don't understand what I'm going through. It's different for me. And I'm not saying it isn't, by the way. I mean, maybe it is, but the more that you can accept that what you're going through is a season of your life, the more that you can be open to that season changing, and the more that you can focus, and maybe it's really hard to see, but you can focus on at least even the small miracles that happen in your life, the more you start to create more of those. And I get it. It's sometimes easy to you know I get told sometimes I make things sound super simple. This human journey sometimes isn't simple because our soul chose to experience some really painful things in order to expand in this human existence. But I have to believe that everything is just in a season. And if we could focus on the magic that's happening around us, and the more that we can focus on the magic happening around us, the more it starts to give us hope and feel the new energy that's happening around us. We are in a season of change, right? There is three planets in retrograde. I'm just trying to work out when this episode is going to come out. There's three planets in retrograde. There's a fourth one that's going to happen. Venus will be in retrograde on the 22nd. And retrogrades mean they get, oh my God, Mercury's in retrograde. What does that mean? All that. It's not, being in retrograde isn't necessarily a bad thing. What it does is whatever that planet represents, it shines more of a light on it, brings stuff up that needs to be ready to be healed. And for a lot of us right now, stuff is coming up that is ready to be healed. It is an intense time. The planets that are in retrograde are all about creativity. What are we trying to create? What are we here to create? What's our purpose in life? So it means that we're all being challenged to truly work out, what are we here to do? And Venus, when it goes into retrograde on the 22nd, is all around love. So yes, it'll challenge some of the relationships in our life. But all of this is coming up right now because I really do believe that we've been pushed to work out why we're here. We've been pushed to connect with our gifts in a different sort of way. And if we remind ourselves that whatever we're going through, the universe is not going to give us anything that we can't handle. And I remember a phrase that has helped me through many times of things I'm going through, and just, this too shall pass. That phrase works on anything. When things are going great, you know what? This too shall pass. I'm going to appreciate every moment of the magic that's happening around me because, you know what? Life happens in cycles. I know what the next cycle is. And when you're going through a tough cycle, you know what? This too shall pass. And I get it when you're in the deep, dark moments and when you feel like the universe is against you and there's darkness all around you, and you have people like us asking you to feel positive, and you can't necessarily see the light. If you could just take that moment and just maybe sit outside and just truly just feel the wind around you, feel the sun shining on you if the sun's out, just connect with nature, or just, if you've got kids or family or loved ones or whatever that feeling for you is, taking that moment just to appreciate whatever you can in your life is a start. So, Stace, what would your advice be to our audience, um, who are in that phase of they really can't see the miracles around them?
So one of my favorite things to recommend to people is the practice of writing, journaling. And I think that this is where we come into intentional gratitude, right? Because if we push ourselves to find the things, the moments that we're grateful for, it allows us to be in a more positive space to then acknowledge the miracles. So, it's easy for anybody to say, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my friends. But when we get in the moment, and we're scanning through our day, and we're more intentional with it, it could be something as simple as, I'm grateful for the ability to work from home and to be in a different part of the world than my co-host, but somehow we're able to connect and have a conversation and bring people into awareness, right? There's ways to really get intentional in seeing the divine in the moments, the everyday moments. And I think that when we take the time to sit down and write, it allows us to go a little bit deeper than just sitting with our thoughts. It gives us a space to process them. And I believe when we do that, then we open ourselves up to seeing the miracles. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. What about you?
Yeah, I totally agree on the journaling. It's like I always, I'm sure people have heard me recommend. There's always three things I recommend. Um, Journaling would be one of them. Sitting in nature in silence and just feeling the energy around you. I always recommend 10 minutes. And it's like anything, journaling, sitting in silence, it requires repetition, right? They say repetition is the mother of skill. It's that you need to do something over a period of time to truly build that muscle. So I'd recommend you do it for a few days. And the other thing that I find works, that brings up stuff that also needs to be dealt with, is mirror work, where you just look into your eyes in the mirror, the eyes being the windows to the soul, and just connect with your soul and just say, I love you. I'll always recommend also saying, I appreciate, I thank you, and I love you. Whatever works for you, but that allows you to feel the love inside you, allows you to connect. And just something else I was thinking of as we record this episode, I lit a couple of candles to set the energy in the space, and just something I just love to do every once in a while. And for those watching on YouTube, I just like to hold a candle in front of me and just watch the flame. Because for me, there's so much magic. It's just how the flame just flows. And maybe you think I'm a little crazy, but I can get lost in that flame. It allows me to kind of forget the world around me and just totally, totally be present for the flame. I don't know if that resonates with people. It's not something I've recommended before, but it's something I like to do every once in a while. Yeah, and like I said, as we go through this period of retrogrades or whatever it looks like, journaling is a great thing to do at this time, because there's stuff that's going to be coming up in us, and it has to go somewhere, right? It's like our emotions, what we feel. If we keep pushing them inside us, if we keep pushing them down or keep pushing them down, it's like a volcano.
Mhm.
They're going to come up, has to come up in some kind of way. And maybe it comes up in the form of an illness, or you get angry, or something you manifest that you don't want. But when you journal, when you find different ways of releasing, journaling, meditation, time in silence, all of that helps, a combination. Then what you're doing is you're finding a vehicle for that emotion. You're finding a way of releasing it, rather than it sitting inside you. But the other trick is in terms of when you find that way to release it through journaling, etc., you've actually got to replace it with something. And that's where manifesting is really important. Being open to the magic around you, but also when you're journaling, manifest what do you want? And just the key to manifesting is also manifest in the present as if you're already there, but feel it. Put emotion, get lost in the emotion of being present in whatever you're manifesting. What miracle are you expecting to happen next? It's like when we talk about gifts. So many people compare. We'll find people compare themselves to others. Oh my God, this person can see things and they can feel their guides. I can't see anything. I can only feel. We all receive differently. So if you receive by feeling, then be grateful for it. And then we hear so often that, oh, I don't receive messages. Well, maybe you've got to start with what's your instinct tell you, and then allow that to build. Sometimes we've got to set ourselves up to receive the miracles too. And a big part of that is, certainly in this phase, the more flexible we can be, the less rigid, because a lot of the time it is our expectations that cause us pain. And the more that we can just be open to magic and truly receiving, and in many ways, doing the self-care, making sure we're showing up for ourselves, but also moving our own way and letting the universe show up. And feeling and appreciating the moments when it really does happen.
Mhm.
So Stacey, as we close out this episode, any journal prompts, any questions for our audience that you think might help them on this journey of truly connecting to the miracles that are happening around and inside us?
So, like I've said before, I would recommend if you're in a space where you're struggling to find the miracles, I would encourage you to start with a practice of gratitude, intentional gratitude, because that's laying the foundation. And through that practice of gratitude, I believe you will then reveal some miracles in your life. Then the other thing I would do is if you're in a dark season in your life, travel back to before this challenging season and what were some of the miracles that happened in your life and document them. Because sometimes it's hard to see when we're going through it, but when we look back at it and we process it, then we can see the miracles. So, really get into the journaling. I'm passionate about that. I feel like it's a great way to process. Um, and I'm interested to see what our listeners uncover. So we would love it if you reached out to us, send us a message. We get messages every week, but it would be really interesting to hear where everybody is in their quest to see the miracles in their life.
Beautiful, beautiful. And also, do reach out to us. Follow us on social media. We love to share. Me and Stacey made a commitment to show up as much as we can in all platforms, including social media. So you'll see more reels from us. You'll see us sharing more of who we are. Follow us. There's a lot of things that we are working on right now, and if you are going through a phase of the world around you is changing, you can feel so much change happening inside you. Maybe it is time for mentorship.
Mhm.
Me and Stacey have a beautiful, beautiful mentorship program, different parts to it, and you can book a free discovery call. And we can take you through what we do, and maybe you find that soul connection, and maybe there's some way that we can guide you and help you on this journey. We love what we do. Feel so blessed in every way of being able to do it every day to guide people to shine their light. And this podcast is our way of giving back. It's such a beautiful thing just to come on here and share whatever comes through for us and know that it's getting to so many of you. So honestly know and please feel the love that we're sending you when you send us a message or a DM or whatever, just letting us know that this podcast is making a difference to you. For us is a miracle. So we thank you for that. And on that note, sending you so much love and light. and look forward to the next episode. Stace, thank you for this space. It's definitely a blessing. I love sharing this space with you. I'm
Thanks
going to
for,
hand over to you to close us out.
thanks for joining us again, friends. As always, we love when you rate and review this podcast, and we love getting your DMs and your emails. So reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye for now.